No longer giving Lieutenant Dan a kick deal, but I'm giving the deal to Terrence.
Apologize to Terrence. Listen, I ain't got nothing to apologize for. For what? For firing my manager?
Well, and just like that, Lieutenant Dan went from an absolute hero to a zero, back to a hero, and now Lieutenant Dan lost his kick deal to the guy who made him famous, Terrence. Now, before we get into all of this, again, there has always been a really big divide between Lieutenant Dan, between Terrence, between Aiden Ross, but now I think we've officially come full circle where a majority of people are sort of done with Lieutenant Dan.
All right, everyone, I just want to come on here and thank you guys all so much for the support that you have given me these past few days. It has been truly amazing. I've read every single DM and tried to reply to as many as I can, and you guys are just truly amazing for all the support that I've received.
All right, so if you ask me, Terrence has always been a cool dude in my book. Whenever I was doing research into all of this, many people tried to discredit Terrence. Many people didn't like him and said, look, he's using Lieutenant Dan for clout. He did get a lot of followers from Lieutenant Dan, but even to Terrence's point, his entire, deal with all of his social media pages was just to show off how cool Tampa was. And all of a sudden, Lieutenant Dan showed up and he just wanted to help out Lieutenant Dan. That is why he started the whole GoFundMe thing. And to be fair, Terrence has actually always been super, super transparent about everything. The reason why Lieutenant Dan's actual name was not on the GoFundMe is because Lieutenant Dan didn't have an ID. And to be fair, even Terrence helped Lieutenant Dan get an ID and also helped him get the money through the GoFundMe.
Isn't that not my right? You put him on that list. You put him in that category. Be more thankful. Listen, I am thankful, but you know what? I don't like Terrence. I don't need Terrence. Terrence and I met, and then this thing blew up, and listen, I'm not getting into this and giving you guys more content. I'm done with it. So you want to talk about Team Terrence, take your crap elsewhere, okay? Take your crap out.
Okay, so as I predicted in my previous video, I am absolutely not surprised this is happening. I mean, you literally have a guy who was homeless, and I know he lives on a boat, but he's pretty much homeless. He had former drug problems. He's been in and out of jail. All of a sudden, he was handed a ton of cash, all of this fame, and now it's all starting to fall apart. And look, as I also predicted, you have a ton of clips coming out of Lieutenant Dan, like saying the N-word and a bunch of other things. And again, a lot of people don't like that. And look, Lieutenant Dan is just straight up not a streamer. He's not trained to be a professional streamer or content creator. So what do people expect? Of course, this was going to happen. But the good thing for Lieutenant Dan, it doesn't look like Aiden Ross is actually completely done with Lieutenant Dan.
Terrence is going to go around Tampa IRL streaming, and he's going to help out homeless people and help out people that are in need. And we're going to give him a budget every day to go IRL stream and give out and bless people. We still want to help Lieutenant Dan, known as Joe, by giving him a boat, but we also want to make sure that he's staying sober and does it the right way. So I'm giving Terrence the deal. Terrence will have the deal. Terrence will be doing IRL streams around Tampa, giving out money and blessing people. I will be featuring a couple of his streams, and it's going to be God's work. So I'm proud of Terrence. Him and I had a really good conversation. He's a very clear-minded person, and I really do like the guy a lot. So him and I will be working together to help people out as well. And again, we're not giving up on Lieutenant Dan. If he wants to help, we'll help him still. But I'm just gonna put the main focus on Terrence having the deal, and that's that. So if you guys are gonna watch Terrence's kick streams of him going around blessing people, put me in the chat. Hope you guys all follow him. I'll have him on stream and stuff.
Dan,
his big boat.
I
don't
know.
Tonight.
He went on my boat and did some shit.
I kind of forgot the
Stole my wife's pills, and he been out here collecting money. And
leave it alone. Let it go back. If he's not going to do anything he doesn't want to do, first of all. Okay, if he wants to hand check $7,000, he handed check $7,000. He knows that he could lose that money. He knows check could never return.
Okay, that was Lieutenant Dan's daughter, and I also happen to agree with her. I'm sort of sick and tired of all of this. I mean, you have to imagine from her side of things, it's literally a daughter, and she's seeing her father posted all over the internet, all over massive news agencies around the world, and she's like, yep, that's my dad. He's not the greatest guy ever. But to be fair, she's actually sticking up for him and saying, look, everyone just leave him alone. Even we're getting sick and tired of it from our side of the family. My dad's gonna do whatever my dad wants to do. And the last thing I want to talk about is this. I think we're sort of seeing this really terrible social experiment where you have one good guy trying to help out Lieutenant Dan, doing everything he can to get him money, get him food, get him proper shelter. And then we think in our society, look, it's great to be famous. It's great to have all the money in the world, when at the end of the day, we're sort of seeing what happens when you just throw everything at one person and expect them to act right. Again, one thing I will say that I stand up for Lieutenant Dan, he admitted, I used to go to prison a lot, I've been in jail, I've suffered from drugs, I'm not the greatest guy ever. He even told Aiden Ross that, and you can tell Aiden Ross was like super hyped to help this guy out, but then became a little reluctant when he started to see the true colors of what's happening. So I don't think Aiden wants anything to do with this in the sense of he doesn't want this man to deteriorate under Aiden Ross giving him all of this money and all this fame, because Aiden Ross has even admitted he's seen what happens in Hollywood when people get super famous. Imagine a guy who's pretty much homeless, again, I know he's living on a boat, getting all of this fame. So again, no disrespect to Lieutenant Dan, but at the end of the day, he's sort of shown his true colors, and I don't think he was ready for all of this fame and all of this money. So I think the Lieutenant Dan saga is sort of over unless all of a sudden we get new revelations about him. But to be honest with you, I'm sort of over the saga. I'm more curious to see who else Aiden Ross is sort of going to help and where everything goes as far as the kick future with the other streamer. So that's kind of what's happening.